The huge space station floated in the darkness of space like a giant metal flower. Horizon Prime was the biggest station in the galaxy, home to hundreds of different alien species. Today was special. For the first time ever, human children were coming to study at the famous Nexus Academy. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood tall in her blue uniform, watching as her group of 12 human children gathered behind her. She felt both proud and nervous. The kids ranged from 8 to 14 years old, and they looked so small compared to the massive alien beings walking past them in the station's main hall. "Remember what we talked about," Lisa said to the children. "Be polite, be respectful, and show them what humans can do." Jake Collins, a 14-year-old boy with brown hair and green eyes, nodded seriously. He held his younger sister Amy's hand. Amy was 11 and couldn't stop looking around at all the strange aliens. Some had tentacles, others had multiple eyes, and a few seemed to be made of pure light. "This place is amazing," Amy whispered to her brother. "Look at that one. It's floating." Professor Zixlar glided toward them. The alien teacher was tall and thin, with pale blue skin that seemed to glow from within. His 3 eyes blinked separately as he examined the human children. "Welcome to Nexus Academy," Zixlar said, his voice echoing strangely in their minds. "I am the head instructor for new students." The professor looked at the children with what seemed like disappointment. "Ambassador Martinez, are these truly the best Earth has to offer? They appear so basic." Lisa smiled patiently. "Professor, I assure you these children will surprise you." Billy Thompson, the youngest at 8 years old, tugged on Lisa's sleeve. "Why is that teacher talking in my head?" he asked loudly. Several alien students nearby made sounds that might have been laughter. They were all much bigger than the human children, and many of them had obvious special abilities. One student had 4 arms, another could change colors like a chameleon, and a third seemed to be made of living crystal. "The Etherians communicate through telepathy," Lisa explained to Billy. "It's how they talk." "Oh," Billy said, then looked up at Professor Zixlar. "Can you hear me thinking right now?" The professor's 3 eyes widened slightly. "No, young human. Your species lacks proper mental channels for true communication." "That's okay," Billy shrugged. "We just use our mouths. It works pretty good." A group of alien students floated past, literally floating a few feet off the ground. They looked at the human children and whispered among themselves. "Look at them," one said, not bothering to lower its voice. "They can't even levitate." "I heard. They have to use tools for everything," another added. "How primitive." Megan Rivera, a 13-year-old girl with curly black hair, crossed her arms. "We can hear you, you know." The floating students seemed surprised that the humans had understood them. They quickly moved away. Professor Zixlar led the group through the academy. The hallways were wide and tall, designed for beings of all shapes and sizes. Strange symbols glowed on the walls, and the air smelled like nothing the children had ever encountered before. "The Nexus Academy is the finest learning institution in the known galaxy," Zixlar explained. "Here, young beings learn to master their natural abilities and understand the greater universe." They passed a classroom where alien students were moving objects with their minds. In another room, students were creating small energy fields with their hands. The human children watched in amazement. "What special abilities do your young ones possess?" Zixlar asked Lisa. Before she could answer, Kevin Jackson, a 10-year-old boy with a big smile, spoke up. "We're really good at figuring stuff out, and we can climb anything," added Danny Rodriguez, the oldest at 14. "Professor," Zixlar's skin flickered with confusion. "Climbing? Figuring things out? These are not proper abilities." "You'd be surprised," Lisa said with a knowing smile. They arrived at the dormitory where the human children would stay. The room was large and circular, with sleeping pods arranged. Along the walls, everything was clean, white, and very alien. "This is where you will rest," Zixlar announced. "Tomorrow your real education begins. Try not to break anything." As the professor glided away, the children looked at each other. They were far from home, surrounded by beings with incredible powers, and everyone seemed to think they were weak and primitive. Jake gathered the group together. Okay, team. They think we're nothing special. Let's show them what humans can really do. Amy grinned. They have no idea what's coming. The human children settled into their new home, unaware that they were about to change the galaxy's understanding of what it truly meant to be dangerous. The next morning, the human children walked into their first physics class at Nexus Academy. The classroom was unlike anything they had seen before. Instead of desks and chairs, there were floating platforms. The walls showed moving star maps, and in the center of the room, a large sphere of energy pulsed with different colors. Professor Zixlar stood at the front, his blue skin glowing brighter than yesterday. Around him, alien students from different species took their places on the floating platforms. The human children stood awkwardly at the entrance, unsure where to go. Humans, you may use the ground-level seating, Zixlar said, pointing to some basic chairs in the corner. Since you cannot levitate. The alien students made those strange laughing sounds again as the humans walked to their seats. Jake felt his face get hot, but he kept quiet. Amy squeezed his hand, and they sat down together. Today we explore the fundamentals of universal forces, Zixlar announced. With a wave of his hand, the energy sphere in the center began to change shape. Observe how I manipulate the zero-point energy field using only my mental focus. Your sphere stretched and twisted, forming complex patterns in the air. The alien students nodded, some of them creating smaller energy fields of their own. The human children watched with wide eyes. This is how advanced species interact with the universe, Zixlar continued. Through direct mental control of fundamental forces. Billy Thompson raised his hand. The professor seemed surprised but nodded at him. Yes, small human. That's cool and all, Billy said. But what happens if you can't use your mind powers, like what if you get a headache or something? Several alien students snickered. Zixlar's skin flickered with annoyance. Advanced beings do not get headaches, he replied. Now, as I was saying, but what about Newton's laws? Billy interrupted again. My dad taught me that every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Doesn't that work here too? The professor paused. Those are primitive concepts from your world. We have moved beyond such simple. Before he could finish, Billy stood up and pulled his backpack off his shoulder. Can I show you something? Without waiting for permission, Billy grabbed a spoon from his lunch kit and a rubber band from his pocket. He quickly assembled them with his backpack strap to create a simple catapult. Then he picked up a foam stress ball Amy had brought. See, if I pull back like this, Billy explained, stretching the rubber band, and then let go. The foam ball shot across the room with surprising speed. It bounced off the energy sphere, ricocheted off the ceiling, and smashed through a reinforced window that was supposed to be unbreakable. Alarms started blaring. The entire class fell silent. The alien students stared in shock. Professor Zixlar's 3 eyes blinked rapidly. How did you do that? He asked. That window is designed to withstand meteor impacts. Billy shrugged. Physics. The angle was just right, and I used the ball's rotation to increase the impact force. Basic stuff. While the professor tried to explain the window incident to security, Megan Rivera had moved to one of the broken security drones that was being repaired in the corner of the classroom. Hey, what are you doing? Asked a 4-armed alien student. Just looking, Megan said, but her hands were already taking apart the drone's control panel. These circuits are all wrong. No wonder it broke. If you crosswire these 2 connections, and add a feedback loop here. The drone suddenly hummed to life, its lights blinking in a new pattern. You fixed it? The alien student said in disbelief. But you didn't use any mental interface. Don't need to. Megan grinned. Just need to understand how it works. By now, the whole class was watching the human children. Jake noticed their expressions had changed from amusement to curiosity. Perhaps, Professor Zixlar said slowly, looking at the fixed drone in the broken window, there is more to learn about human methods than we assumed. Amy raised her hand. Professor? Billy's right about those physics laws. They work everywhere, even in space. Maybe we could teach you some of our ways, too? The alien students murmured among themselves. The idea that they could learn from humans seemed to shock them. Yeah, Kevin added. We might not have mind powers, but we're pretty good at making things work. Zixlar's skin shifted through several colors before settling on a thoughtful purple. Very well. Tomorrow you will demonstrate more of these mechanical solutions. Class dismissed. As they left the classroom, the human children heard the alien students talking excitedly about catapults and circuits. Jake smiled at his sister. I think they're starting to get it, he said. Just wait until they see what we can do in gym class, Amy replied with a mischievous grin. The bell rang for recess and all the students poured out into the massive playground area. It was more like a park in space, with artificial grass, climbing structures that defied gravity, and sports fields marked with glowing lines. The dome, above, showed a view of the stars. A group of Krell warrior students, tall and muscular with gray skin, approached the human children. Their leader, who wore a red band on his arm, looked down at Jake. We play capture the flag now, he announced. You humans may watch and learn how real warriors compete. Jake exchanged glances with his sister and friends. Actually, we'd love to play, he said. If that's okay with you? The Krell students laughed, a sound like rocks grinding together. You? Against us? We are bred for combat. We have strength shields and warrior instincts. We've played capture the flag before, Amy said innocently. It might be fun. The other alien students gathered around, sensing something interesting was about to happen. Even some teachers stopped to watch. Very well, the Krell leader said. Prepare to be defeated, small humans. The rules were simple. Each team had a flag at their base. The goal was to steal the other team's flag and bring it back. The Krell team consisted of 5 warriors with various powers, strength shields, enhanced speed, and the ability to sense movement. The human team had Jake, Amy, Kevin, Megan, Danny, and little Billy. As soon as the game started, the Krell charged forward, confident in their victory. They activated their strength shields, making their bodies glow with protective energy. But the humans had a plan. Mirrors up, Jake called out. Amy and Megan pulled out small mirrors from their pockets. They had found them in the art supply room earlier. They used the mirrors to reflect the artificial sunlight directly into the Krell's eyes, confusing their motion sensors. Meanwhile, Kevin and Danny had been busy. They had brought items from the chemistry lab and created a simple smoke bomb using baking soda and vinegar in a plastic bottle. When they released it, thick white smoke filled the area. I can't see, one Krell warrior shouted. Use your motion sense, another replied. But Billy had another surprise. He had collected marbles from the game room and scattered them across the main path. The Krell warriors, unable to see in the smoke, and with their motion sense confused by the mirrors, stepped on the marbles and slipped. Now, Jake commanded. The human children split into 2 groups. While the Krell were still confused, Kevin led a distraction team that made lots of noise. On one side, the Krell, thinking the humans were attacking, rushed in that direction. But Jake, Amy, and Billy had circled around to the other side. They used a skateboard they had found to slide under a low barrier that the larger Krell couldn't fit through. Within minutes, they reached the Krell flag. The Krell realized too late what had happened. They tried to use their speed to catch up, but Megan had set up tripwires using jump ropes across their path. 2 warriors got tangled and fell. Danny appeared from behind a structure, holding a large piece of cardboard. He used it as a shield when a Krell warrior tried to tag him, then spun around and tagged the warrior instead. The watching crowd gasped. No one had ever seen the Krell warriors outmaneuvered like this. In the final moments, Jake grabbed the Krell flag and threw it to Amy, who threw it to Kevin. The warriors couldn't figure out who to chase. Billy, the smallest and seemingly least threatening, caught the final pass and rode the skateboard straight into the human base. Victory! Billy shouted, holding up the flag. The playground fell silent. The Krell warriors stood in shock, their strength shields flickering off. The other alien students stared with their mouths open or whatever they used for mouths. But how? The Krell leader stammered. You have no powers. Jake helped one of the fallen warriors up. We don't need powers. We have teamwork and strategy. And science, Megan added, holding up her empty bottle. And we're really good at tricks. Amy grinned. Professor Zixler floated over, his skin now a bright yellow color that none of the humans had seen before. Remarkable, he said. You defeated our finest warrior students using toys and household items? It's not about what you have, Danny explained. It's about how you use it. The Krell leader looked at the humans with new respect. Would you teach us these tactics? Jake smiled and held out his hand. Sure. Want to play again? This time we can mix the teams. As the two groups began planning their next game together, the watching aliens realized they had witnessed something important. The human children hadn't just won a game. They had shown that sometimes the most dangerous abilities aren't the ones you're born with, but the ones you create yourself. Late that night, the space station shook violently. Jake woke up to flashing red lights and a loud alarm. The other human children were already jumping out of their sleeping pods, looking scared but alert. What's happening? Amy asked, grabbing her brother's arm. The door to their dormitory slid open and Professor Zixlar rushed in. His usually calm blue skin was flickering with patches of gray, which the children had learned meant fear. Solar storm, he said quickly. Much stronger than predicted. The station's power systems are failing. As if to prove his point, the lights went out completely. Only the emergency red lights remained, casting strange shadows on the walls. Students, remain calm, Zixlar said, but his voice shook. Our psychic interfaces are not responding. The backup systems require mental activation, but the storm is interfering with our abilities. The human children looked at each other. They could hear panic in the hallways as other aliens realized their powers weren't working. Katie Murphy, who had been quiet until now, stepped forward. Professor, where's the manual override? Manual? Zixlar sounded confused. Everything here operates on psychic frequencies. We don't have manual controls. Everything has a manual backup, Katie said firmly. My mom's an engineer. She says redundancy saves lives. The temperature was dropping fast. Jake could see his breath in the emergency lighting. Other alien students were gathering in the hallway, their various forms of communication failing as the psychic networks went down. We need to get organized, Katie announced to the group. Jake, take some kids and find the life support center. Megan, can you get to the control room? On it. Megan nodded, already pulling wires from a broken display panel. I'll need tools. I've got my multi-tool, Danny said, pulling it from his pocket. The alien students watched in amazement as the human children took charge. Katie started drawing a map on the wall with a piece of chalk she found. Billy, you and Amy check all the rooms on this floor. Look for anyone who needs help. Kevin, find all the blankets and warm clothes you can. Chris, we need water. The automatic systems are down, so look for storage tanks. What about us? Asked a young Etherian, shivering. Help us, Katie said simply. Your powers might not work, but you still have hands, right? Within minutes, the human children had created a command center in the main hall. Jake's team found the life support center, where massive machines hummed weakly. Everything's electronic, Jake observed. But look, there are manual valves behind these panels. Using Danny's tools, they pried open the panels. The manual controls were stiff from never being used, but working together, they managed to redirect emergency power to essential systems. Meanwhile, Megan had reached the control room. Alien technicians floated helplessly, unable to interface with their systems. Move over, Megan said politely but firmly. She started connecting wires, bypassing the psychic interfaces entirely. If we route power from the solar collectors through this junction and create a feedback loop here. Lights began to flicker on in sections of the station. In the main hall, Katie had organized everyone into teams. The alien students, following human direction, helped distribute blankets and set up emergency heating using chemical reactions from the science labs. Lucy Carter, The 9-year-old strategist coordinated communication runners between groups. You can't use telepathy? Fine. Use your legs. Pass messages the old-fashioned way. Chris Lee taught alien students how to create makeshift water filters using sand and charcoal when they discovered the purification systems were offline. Ambassador. Martinez arrived to find the human children had essentially taken over emergency operations. Professor Zixlar stood beside her, his skin now showing patterns of orange and yellow. They've saved us, he said in disbelief. Without any powers, using only primitive tools and... He paused, searching for the word. Ingenuity. Not primitive, Lisa corrected gently. Practical. By morning, the solar storm had passed. The station's main power returned and psychic abilities came back online. But something had fundamentally changed. The alien students looked at their human classmates with deep respect. Katie was putting away the last of the emergency supplies when the station commander, a towering crystalline being, approached her. Young human, the commander resonated. You showed leadership when our greatest minds were helpless. How? Katie shrugged. We're used to things breaking down on Earth. When you can't rely on special powers, you learn to rely on each other. The human children had proven that in a crisis, their primitive skills were anything but. They had shown the galaxy that sometimes the most advanced solution is the simplest one. The emergency alarm sounded again 2 days later, but this time it was different. A section of the space station had broken away during the solar storm, and several alien students were trapped inside. The section was spinning slowly in space, still attached by emergency cables but losing air quickly. Danny Rodriguez stood at the observation window, studying the situation. The trapped section was about 50 meters away, connected by a twisted metal bridge that looked ready to snap at any moment. We've sent distress signals, Professor Zixlar explained to the gathered crowd. But rescue ships won't arrive for hours. Our students inside have maybe 30 minutes of air left. Can't you use your powers to bring them back? Jake asked. Your metal is treated with psychic dampeners, another teacher replied. We cannot affect it with our minds, and the radiation from the storm makes teleportation impossible. Danny turned to the adults. I'll go get them. Impossible, Zixlar exclaimed. The bridge is unstable. The radiation levels are dangerous. You have no protective abilities. I don't need abilities, Danny said calmly. I need rope, some magnetic boots, and a few oxygen tanks. The human children sprang into action. Megan ran to the maintenance room for tools. Kevin and Chris gathered rope from the gym equipment. Amy found emergency oxygen masks in the medical bay. I'm coming with you, Jake said to Danny. Me too, added Katie. Within minutes, they had assembled their gear. Danny tied the rope around his waist and attached the other end to a secure point inside the station. He put on the magnetic boots they had found in the maintenance closet. The boots will keep me attached to the metal bridge, Danny explained to the watching aliens. The rope is backup. Jake and Katie will feed me more rope as I go. The alien adults wanted to stop them, but they had no better ideas. The trapped students were running out of time. Danny stepped onto the damaged bridge. It creaked and swayed under his weight. He moved carefully, testing each step. The magnetic boots clicked against the metal, holding him in place. Halfway across, a piece of the bridge broke off and floated away into space. Danny hung there for a moment, held only by his boots and the rope. The watching crowd gasped. Keep going, Jake called out, slowly releasing more rope. Danny reached the broken section. The door was sealed shut, but he could see frightened alien faces through the small window. Using tools from his belt, he began working on the manual release. Billy, Amy, he shouted back. Mix those cleaning chemicals I showed you. We need to blow this door. Billy and Amy quickly mixed the supplies from the janitor's closet. They had learned in science class that certain combinations could create expanding foam. They passed the mixture down the line to Danny. Danny applied the foam around the door seal. As it expanded and hardened, it created pressure differences that helped pop the door open. Air rushed out, but Danny was ready with the oxygen masks. Inside, 5 alien students huddled together. 2 were unconscious. Danny quickly put masks on them and checked their vital signs the way he had learned in first aid class. "We need to move fast," he told them. "Hold on to each other. Follow exactly where I step." The rescue took 20 minutes. Danny led each alien across the bridge with Jake and Katie managing the safety ropes. Megan had rigged up a pulley system to help lift the unconscious students. When the last student was safe, Danny climbed back inside. His face was pale from the radiation exposure, but he was smiling. The station commander approached him. "You risked your life for students you barely know. Why?" Danny shrugged. "They needed help. That's what humans do." "But you could have died." "Maybe," Danny admitted. "But I knew what I was doing. Rock climbing back home is way scarier than this." The rescued alien students surrounded Danny and the other humans, expressing gratitude in their various ways. One of them, a young Krell warrior, bowed deeply. "You have the heart of a true warrior," he said. "Not because you are fearless, but because you act despite fear." Professor Zixlar watched the scene with wonder. These human children without any special powers had accomplished what his advanced species could not. They had shown that sometimes the most dangerous beings in the universe are those who refuse to accept that something is impossible. As the medical team checked on Danny and the rescued students, Amy turned to her brother. "Think they still believe we're the primitive ones?" Jake smiled. "I don't think anyone's calling us that anymore." The Great Hall of Nexus Academy buzzed with excitement. Today was the annual Galactic Youth Competition, where young beings from across the galaxy showed off their abilities. The walls displayed holographic banners and floating cameras recorded everything for viewers on countless worlds. The human children sat together in their section, looking small among the varied alien contestants. Most aliens still expected them to lose badly in every event. "Welcome to the 547th Galactic Youth Competition," announced the host, a being made of pure energy. "First event, Strategic Combat Simulation." The rules were simple. Each contestant entered a virtual battlefield and had to defeat computer-controlled enemies using any means available. Points were awarded for speed, efficiency, and creative solutions. The alien contestants went first. A young Etherian used mental blasts to destroy targets. A Krell warrior smashed through obstacles with strength shields. A shape-shifting student became invisible to sneak past guards. Then it was Lucy Carter's turn. The 9-year-old human girl walked into the simulation chamber. The aliens whispered among themselves, some laughing at the sight of such a small contestant. The simulation began. Lucy faced 20 virtual enemies in a maze-like arena. Instead of attacking directly, she did something unexpected. She found the arena's environmental controls and turned off the lights. "What's she doing?" muttered an alien judge. In the darkness, Lucy used the sound of her own footsteps to confuse the enemies. She led them into chasing each other while she calmly walked to the objective. She completed the simulation without firing a single shot. "Impossible!" exclaimed the energy being. "She used psychological warfare against computer programs." Lucy shrugged. "They were programmed to act like thinking beings, so I made them think wrong." The next event was the obstacle course. It floated in zero gravity, filled with spinning barriers, force fields, and gravity wells. Most aliens used their natural abilities to fly through it. Chris Lee stepped up for the humans. At first, the course seemed impossible for someone who couldn't fly or phase through walls. But Chris had been watching the other contestants carefully. Instead of fighting the course's challenges, he used them. He bounced off spinning barriers to gain momentum. He used gravity wells to slingshot himself forward. Where others had forced their way through, Chris flowed like water, turning every obstacle into a tool. "He's not even using the handholds," observed a judge. "He's dancing through it." Chris finished with the fastest time, beating even the gravity-manipulating champions. The competition continued through the day. In the technology challenge, Megan reprogrammed alien devices using nothing but wire and determination. In the survival test, Kevin built a shelter that protected against conditions that had defeated students with natural armor. By the final event, the scoreboard showed humans in the lead. The last challenge was the problem-solving relay, where teams had to work together to solve increasingly difficult puzzles. The human team faced the supposedly unbeatable crystalline beings, whose hive mind usually gave them perfect coordination. The first puzzle required lifting a heavy object through a tiny hole. While the crystalline beings tried to phase the object through solid matter, Billy had a different idea. "Jake, Amy, help me take it apart." They quickly dismantled the object, passed the pieces through the hole, and reassembled it on the other side. They solved puzzle after puzzle using simple, practical approaches while other teams struggled with complex power-based solutions. The final puzzle seemed impossible. It required simultaneously pressing 20 buttons spread across a huge room, more than any team had members. "We can't reach them all," said the crystalline team leader. "It's physically impossible," but Katie was already directing her team. They used mirrors to redirect laser pointers onto light-sensitive buttons. They tied strings to pull distant levers. They rolled balls down ramps to hit switches at the perfect moment. When the buzzer sounded, the human team had solved every puzzle. The arena fell silent as the scores appeared on the giant display. First place, Earth. The energy being announced, its voice filled with shock. Using no supernatural abilities whatsoever. As the human children stood on the victory platform, Professor Zixlar approached Ambassador Martinez. His skin glowed, with colors of respect and wonder. "We thought they were limited because they lacked powers," he said. "But their limitation is their strength. It forces them to think in ways we never imagined." The human children waved to the cameras, their victory broadcast across the galaxy. They had shown everyone that sometimes the most powerful ability is the power to think differently. Ambassador Lisa Martinez stood before the full Galactic Council, the most powerful beings in known space. The vast chamber was filled with representatives from hundreds of worlds. Floating screens showed the human children teaching classes back at Nexus Academy. "Esteemed council members," Lisa began, "I present my final report on the Human Integration Program." The council leader, an ancient being of pure thought, spoke directly into everyone's minds. "We have seen remarkable events at Nexus Academy. Explain these unusual developments." Lisa smiled and pressed a button. The screens showed footage of the human children in action. Billy's catapult breaking the unbreakable window, Katie organizing the emergency response, Danny's daring rescue mission, and their competition victories. "What you're seeing," Lisa explained, "is the result of evolution without special abilities. Humans developed differently from other species." A crystalline ambassador chimed in, "But they lack even basic powers. How can they be so capable?" "That's exactly why," Lisa replied. She showed a chart comparing human and alien development. Most species evolved with natural abilities like telepathy, energy manipulation, or flight. These powers made life easier. When problems arose, you solved them with your abilities. She switched to images of early human history. Humans had none of these advantages. When we faced challenges, we had to think our way out. When we encountered obstacles, we built tools. When we met danger, we worked together. The screens now showed the human children teaching alien students. Jake was demonstrating knot tying to a group of floating beings who had never needed rope. Amy was showing Krell warriors how to build simple machines using levers and pulleys. "Your species developed amazing powers," Lisa continued. "But humans developed something else, problem-solving minds. We learned to see multiple solutions to every challenge. We became experts at using whatever was available." An Etherian representative spoke up. "But surely this makes them primitive." Lisa shook her head. "Watch this." The screen showed Megan teaching a mixed class. She had given them a simple challenge: move a heavy box across the room without using any special powers. The alien students struggled, having never approached a problem without their abilities. Then Billy raised his hand. "What if we put round things under it?" He grabbed some cups from the cafeteria and placed them under the box, creating makeshift wheels. The box rolled easily across the floor. "Humans call this thinking outside the box," Lisa explained. "Because we never had powers to rely on. We learned to question every assumption. The footage continued. Chris was teaching alien students about parkour, showing them how to move efficiently without flight. Lucy was explaining game theory to beings who had always used telepathy to predict opponents' moves. The children have taught your students about chemistry, physics, engineering, and strategy, Lisa said. But more importantly, they've taught them how to think differently, how to solve problems when powers fail. She showed the final clip. Alien students successfully handling a simulated power outage, using human-taught techniques to maintain life support manually. The council leader was silent for a moment. You're saying their weakness is actually a strength? I'm saying they never had a weakness, Lisa replied. They had a different path. Every species here developed amazing abilities. Humans developed adaptability. Your children use powers to overcome challenges. Our children learned to overcome limitations. A murmur ran through the council as they discussed among themselves. Finally, the leader spoke again. Ambassador Martinez, we have reached a decision. We formally request that Earth establish training programs across the galaxy. Your children have shown us that the most dangerous ability is the power to think creatively. Lisa felt pride swell in her chest. What kind of training programs? Survival skills, problem solving, basic engineering, creative thinking, the leader listed. All the things your children consider normal education. We want our youth to learn these primitive skills that are actually the foundation of true capability. The screens now showed alien and human children working together, building things, solving puzzles, and laughing. The alien students were struggling with simple tasks, but learning quickly, guided by their human friends. There's one condition, Lisa said with a smile. The children insist on calling it human school. They think it's funny. For the first time in recorded history, the entire Galactic Council laughed together. They had learned that sometimes the most advanced species is the one that never stops finding new ways to solve old problems. The age of human influence in the galaxy had officially begun, led by children who were too young to know that what they were doing was supposed to be impossible. 6 months later, Earth had become the most popular destination in the galaxy. Alien ships arrived daily, bringing students eager to learn human ways. The first human training academy stood proudly in Arizona, its simple brick buildings surrounded by obstacle courses, workshops, and camping areas. Jake and Amy Collins walked through the academy grounds, now wearing instructor badges on their shirts. They had grown taller, more confident, and were respected throughout known space as the children who changed the galaxy's understanding of strength. Ready for today's class? Amy asked her brother as they approached the main training field. Jake nodded, watching a group of young aliens struggling to start a fire without using their powers. Remember when we thought making fire was boring in scout camp? Now it's an advanced course for beings who can control plasma with their minds. Amy laughed. The morning bell rang, and students from dozens of worlds gathered in the amphitheater. Some floated, others crawled, and a few simply appeared out of thin air. But they all wore the same simple uniform. Jeans and t-shirts, Earth's contribution to galactic fashion. Professor Zixlar arrived with a new group of Etherian students. His skin now permanently showed the yellow color of happiness. He had become one of the strongest supporters of human education. Class, Jake announced. Today we're learning about something humans call duct tape. The alien students murmured, in confusion. Many had translation difficulties with the concept. This, Amy held up a silver roll, is possibly the most powerful tool in human history. It sticks things together, fixes breaks, and can be used in thousands of ways. A young Krell raised his hand. But why not use molecular bonding powers? Because duct tape works when your powers don't, Jake explained. Watch. He demonstrated by fixing a broken chair, creating a water container, and even making a simple shelter. The alien students were amazed that a simple adhesive strip could do so much. Across the academy, other human children were teaching their own classes. Megan ran the engineering workshop, where aliens learned to build machines with their hands instead of their minds. Katie taught emergency preparedness, showing students how to stay calm when their abilities failed. Danny led the advanced rescue course, training aliens in rope work and climbing. His students included some of the most powerful beings in the galaxy, all learning to trust simple tools over supernatural powers. In the strategy classroom, Lucy played chess with a telepath who couldn't read her mind. "The game isn't about knowing what your opponent thinks," she explained. "It's about making them think what you want them to think." Billy, despite being the youngest instructor, taught the most popular course, creative problem solving. His classroom was always full of laughter as students learned to see ordinary objects in extraordinary ways. During lunch break, the human children sat together at their usual table. They watched alien students practicing human skills, tying knots using tools and even playing traditional Earth games like hide and seek. "Look at them," Chris said, pointing to a group of floating beings trying to climb a rope ladder. 6 months ago, they thought we were primitive. Now they brag about being able to light a match," Kevin added with a grin. Ambassador Martinez joined them, carrying news from Earth. "The Galactic Council has made their final decision," she announced. "They're implementing human-style education on every member world. They're calling it the most important advancement in galactic history." The children cheered, but Jake raised his hand for quiet. "There's something we need to remember," he said seriously. "We didn't prove humans are better than other species. We proved that everyone has something to teach." Amy nodded. "The aliens taught us about the universe, about different cultures, about powers we never imagined. We taught them about solving problems without powers." That evening, as the twin suns set over the academy, a new sign was unveiled at the entrance. It read, "When the power fails, the humans prevail." Below it, someone had added in smaller letters, "And when humans and aliens work together, nothing is impossible." The alien students gathered around their human teachers, no longer seeing them as primitive children, but as masters of the most powerful ability in the universe, the power to adapt, overcome, and never stop learning. In the years that followed, graduates of the Human Training Academy would explore the furthest reaches of space, solve the greatest mysteries of the universe, and face challenges that once seemed insurmountable. They carried with them the lessons learned from human children who were too young to know that being ordinary could be the most extraordinary power of all. The galaxy had learned that sometimes the most dangerous beings aren't those with the greatest powers, but those with the greatest minds.